Hey YouTube, it's Black, and today I wanted to do a deck profile for the Shinra deck I've been messing around with. It acts as a supplement to the previous video I've put up on my channel, and it's something I've been waiting to do for a while. I just haven't found the time to do it, and I think it's time for me to talk about it. Now, I've been having the same issues a lot of people have been having. The deck isn't really consistent enough, and there's not enough stuff in the deck yet for it to be any good, really. But this deck profile, I will not take credit for. The skeleton I got from a couple guys on Pojo who actually worked with the deck and figured out how to do it. I just made some tweaks to their build, and I really wish I knew who you were so I could give you credit for it. But if you're looking for it, go find them on Pojo and they'll tell you everything you need to know. So let me run through the deck real quick and explain a couple things about the deck and what I found out about it. So starting off, we have 3 Spirit Trees, 1 True Behemoth, 1 Bannon Tree Fender, 3 Flower Knights. This is actually going to change to 1 Flower Knight and 2 whatever this thing is called. It is the exclusive that's coming out in Legacy of the Valiant, which is the one everybody's getting, which is Sylvan Blade Fender, and it's a level 4 plant with the effect with 1900 attack, 700 defense, with the effect of when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can excavate. That is such a dumb term. The top card of your deck, and if it's a plant type monster, send it to the graveyard. Otherwise, you get the deal. And if this card is excavated from the deck and sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add this card from your graveyard to your hand. That's a whole lot better than Flower Knight. Flower Knight really doesn't have any utility in the deck other than revealing and top decking a card. And plus it was the only body the deck had. Blade Fender's got 100 more attack, and so he's going to be able to get over something. And plus, if he mills himself, he adds himself back to your hand, which is a great plus and something this deck needed, and I'll explain why later. Moving on, we have the 3 Leaf Flows. That 1 all-important Lone Fire Blossom, 1 Mythical Seed Mitra, Crane, Dandy, 1 Stulette, 1 Spore, 3 Peacekeepers, and 1 Copy Plant. Spell lineup, you're going to play a lot of spells in this deck. It's a 1-for-1, Dark Hole, Foolish Burial, only 1 MST, Book of Moon, 2 Forbidden Lances, 3 Super Solar Nutrients, probably behind Miracle Fertilizer, the most important card in this deck. Those 3 Miracle Fertilizers, 2 Sacred Mountain of Shinras, 1 Bottomless, 1 Compulse, 1 Warning, and 2 Polynosises. Extra deck, the guys on Pojo figured out that you could actually go Shooting Star Dragon pretty easily in this deck, and messing around with it, I found out it is pretty easy to get out because you play so many level manipulating things, and this deck is flexible enough to go into those things. So my extra deck consists of a Shooting Star Dragon, a Leo, Stardust Dragon, a Barkion, Sirius the Blue Wolf Star, a Celestial Wolf Lord Blue Sirius, Catastor, Formula Synchron, Felgrand, Shinra no Morgami Aluse, hope I said that right, 1 Shark Knight, 1 Downerd Magician, 1 Noble Storm Beelzebub, this will probably change, a Malay, a Zenmane, and a Ghost Trick Dullahan. Now, getting into the deck, 3 Spirit Trees is really optional, I found. You and most need to, but this card is actually needed for the deck because it's simply for the fact this deck needs more bodies, and this is the biggest body the deck has. You honestly don't need more than 2 of this card. I'm running 3 because I like having 3 of this card, and its effect is not really necessary outside of the possibility to draw 1 and to mess with the top card of your deck to get rid of dead spells and traps you don't need to possibly get better cards. Now, True Behemoth. This card is actually pretty important for this deck because she pays you back for the investment you use on it. If it's milled by a Sylvan or a Shinra effect, that's perfectly fine because once she goes to the graveyard, you have 3 Miracle Fertilizers to bring her back. And if she dies by any way, shape, or form by your opponent, she replaces herself with any other plant, meaning you're going to replace it with Tree Fender, Spirit Tree, or Flower Knight, or Blade Fender if you need to. And I found it's actually more useful with your first Lone Fire play instead of going into something like Regia or Dandy if I don't have Dandy, or Peacekeeper if I don't have Super Solar Nutrient, is to go into True Behemoth and just put her in defense. because it allows me to normal summon and set other plant type monsters, and my opponent is forced to attack this card, and if they do happen to get over it, bam, free Spirit Tree. You only need the one Tree Fender because you don't want to run multiple copies of this card. This is a tribute summon card, and it's not really that great other than the outside reveal 3 and top decking Dandy if it's milled, but it's really nice to have. When you combine it with Copy Plant, you get rank 6s, which is really cool. But yeah, and it's also the second biggest body this deck has. Now I explained about the Flower Knight, how I'm cutting this down to 1 for 2 Blade Fenders, because Flower Knight really has no extra utility in the deck other than it being the best level 4 normal summon this deck has outside of Blade Fender now, and the ability to top deck Shinra cards for future plays if you need it. So honestly, I don't think you need more than one of this card. I've never liked having 3 in this deck. I just needed more Shinras, but thanks to Blade Fender being out, I can just swap that out for the other one. You're going to need 3 Leaf Flow. 3 Leaf Flow is absolutely necessary to this deck. As you can see, your monsters are really weak and require combos to get over certain things. If your opponent is playing something like Bujin and they have Kaiser Coliseum out, and you happen to mill that one card to get Leaf Flow into the grave, it helps you get over that monster so you can continue going off from there. Once again, big ups to Blade Fender, who's fucking awesome. So you absolutely need 3, and Leaf Flow having 1500 attack is actually pretty good, meaning it has a possibility of surviving a turn, and it just has a body that you can attack with. Just fucking run Lone Fire. I'm being serious. Just fucking run Lone Fire. Do not try to play this deck without running Lone Fire Blossom. If you are, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. I tried it once. It didn't work. It just ended in catastrophe. You just run Lone Fire. If this card was at 2, this deck would be busted. Okay, Mithra. Mithra is actually another idea that came from the people on Pojo. Mithra is honestly not that great because it can only be used as a synchro summon of an Earth monster. But the thing I really like about this card that I realized from them is that the fact that this card can modulate levels of Earth monsters on the field. Mostly you're going to be doing that to itself, or maybe True Behime, or Arc, or Night Sisyphus if you need to. But having this and Super Solar Nutrient in your hand is not a bad summon because you can reduce it to level 2 or 1 and then turn it into a Lone Fire Blossom. Basically, it pays you back for its summon and allows you to get Lone Fire out to get something bigger out, and allows you to put Lone Fire in the grave for future plays. Also, it works very well with Crane being a level 3 Earth. You can synchro with this card for Notorial Barkion if you feel like it, or you can exceed into Melee of the Trees to get the Lone Fire you use to pull this card out. Don't need more than one. Honestly, if you choose to opt out of playing this card for something better, I say fully go ahead. I've just found more uses for this card thanks to those people on Pojo, and they were right about it. You're going to want the 2 Cranes because you do have multiple level 3 targets. The standard being Dandy, so you can abuse the Dandy tokens, Mithra, and the 3 Leaf Flows to go into the emergency Zen mains if need be. Dandy, self-explanatory, it's a plant deck. Dandy is just a plant, a really, really awesome plant. Wish you could play more of this card because it'd be great. Works very well with Shinra Mountain, and if it's milled by any Shinra, you get free tokens for Polynosis. I have found in duels and testing and through other people that you only need to play 1 Stoolette because this card isn't really useful outside the mill 5. It's got a big body, but it really doesn't, well, a big butt, but it really doesn't do anything after that. And it really sucks if you draw into this card, so it's better to play 1 to minimize the fact that you'll draw this card. Spore, kind of obvious. 3 Peacekeepers. Peacekeeper is probably the 3rd most important monster in this deck. Peacekeeper is going to be the way you spam the field really, really hard. When you combine Shinra Mountain with something like Spore to top deck Peacekeeper into normal summoning any Shinra that mills on its normal summon, it allows you to set up future plays. If you happen to mill multiple plants like a level 4, when you have a Flower Knight on the field, and you mill another level 4, you can special summon the level 4 you milled with Peacekeeper and just keep going from there. If you mill multiple copies of Peacekeeper, you can mill 1 and you mill the Peacekeeper, special summon that same Peacekeeper, mill another. If it happens to be Danny, you get free tokens, and then you exceed into Ghost Trick Dullahan that's bound to survive and protect itself if need be. Also, this is one of the main ways you're going to go into Formula Synchron, really one of the only other ways outside of Dandy tokens. So 3 is actually pretty important to this deck in order to successfully spam the field. Copy Plant, really important too. It's going to be your second main tuner outside of Spore. Because it's the ability to copy levels, it can go into 6s, 8, 5s, anything you need just to get to where you need to be. Also, it combines with Dead Spirit Trees or True Behime to go into things like Felgrand and Shinra no Mogami Alise. I really hope I'm saying that right. It's a Copy Plant, yeah, just a great card for the deck. You don't need to run more than one because drawing multiple copies of Copy Plant is a really dead card. Moving on to spells, 1-for-1 just helps you get out your smaller monsters like Spore and Peacekeeper and Copy Plant faster. Obvious. Why only one MST? I feel like you only really need one MST for this deck. You have Stulet to pop back row. If you can find ways to recycle this card, that'd be great. And you also have multiple things to stop spell and traps and summons, like Polynosis. So that one MST just secures that one thing. If your opponent has something in back row, you can just MST that one card and just go off from there. Book of Moon is a really good card. Forbidden Lance is my opt-out instead of multiple MSTs because I think it's more important to keep field presence on the field than preemptively striking cards. Because you can respond to cards like Bottomless, Deep Prison, and Compulse, it's better to, if you do get Spirit Tree, True Behime, or something else out, it's better to respond with Lance than to just MST or try to hold on to that one thing because this deck can push really hard and just not care what anybody's doing. Super Solar Nutrient. Very important to this deck. This card makes Peacekeeper summons a whole lot easier because you can summon Peacekeeper, mill. If you milled something you needed, you can immediately turn that Peacekeeper into a Lone Fire Blossom with Super Solar Nutrient. And you can use that Lone Fire to go into True Behime, Spirit Tree, or anything else you need. Also, like I stated earlier, you can use it with Dandy Tokens, you can use it with Mithra, you can use it with Copy Plant, you can use it with Stulet if you're forced to summon this card, and you can use it with Spore. So you have multiple targets for this card, and it basically tours out your entire deck in Sands of Sangan and other things that you would play, and multiple copies of Lone Fire Blossom. The 3 Miracle Fertilizers is probably the best plants, one of the best plant support I've ever seen. It is, for those who don't know, it's once per turn. You can select a plant type monster from your graveyard, special summon it. You cannot normal summon or set the turn you special summon a monster with this effect. If a monster by this effect is removed from the field, destroy this card. Now, since this is a continuous spell, you can continuously use this once per turn. You're going to mill a lot of plants. More than likely, you're going to mill these Spirit Trees before you get a chance to summon them out the deck. Miracle Fertilizer grabs those cards back. It allows multiple True Behime uses. It allows easier Tree Fender summons. It allows you to pull back level 4s, level 3s, or level 1s, or tuners that you need to get into things that you want to do. 3 can be a little excessive at time. I like 3 because usually this is the first thing that gets MST'd when I play it. So I have multiple copies to back it up, and usually the monster I summon off of Miracle Fertilizer is leaving the field that same turn. So I run through this card pretty quickly. So I play 3. You can play 2 to make the deck run a whole lot smoother. Shinra Mountain is actually really important to the deck. It is a good card. You just need to stack your deck properly. It's going to require, to use this card properly, it requires you to think ahead a turn. When you use it, you have to set yourself up for, 1, this card is going to get destroyed, so I'm going to do this instead, and 1, my opponent is going to respond to this card, so I'm going to set up my mill so this card can activate successfully. And also, Shinra Mountain at the end phase, if it just goes off without you setting up, it allows you to control your next draw. If you would have drawn into something you don't need or can't use, you can automatically just bottom deck that card to draw into something else. Don't run 3 of this card because you don't need 3 of this card. 2 is enough because you're not going to play this card enough to actually do anything really important. Because you're going to run through this deck like that, and you're going to be really sad when you run out of resources to use with this card. Now, these 3 are pretty self-explanatory. Now, why the 2 Polynosis? Polynosis is your Solemn Judgment for this deck, and the reason I play 2 over other cards like more MSTs, stuff like that, is because it really sucks balls when you have to summon P's in attack position and you can't do anything with it. Polynosis allows me to get rid of that P's if need be, in order to stop my opponent from getting the upper hand on me. If you're stuck with P's and a Polynosis, you need to stop that first summon or whatever they try to do, because until you get other cards in your hand, you have to stop that with Polynosis. Shooting Star Dragon, like I said, easy to get out in this deck. It just takes a lot of field manipulation and thought. I've honestly thought of playing Mind Control in this deck to make this pulling off Shooting Star Dragon a whole lot easier. I know there's a couple videos on Pojo and forums on Pojo explaining how to do this properly. I can't tell you how to do it because it just happens. Leo is actually pretty easy to go into with this deck. Mithra or Spore or any level 2 tuner plus Cheruba Hime or Spirit Tree equals Leo. Pretty good card to summon. It's got 3100 attack, can't be targeted till main phase 2. So stuff like Compulse and D-Prison will not stop this card. Actually, it's actually pretty good because Big Eye can't target this card actually until your main phase 2. So basically it's immune to Big Eye's effect, which is actually pretty awesome. I like this card. Stardust, because it's easy to make. You can opt to play Scrap Dragon or any other level 8 like Blader, but I'm waiting for the ban list to change this deck again. Barkion, because it's easy to do because you run Earth monsters, and it's basically a free summon with Mithra and Crane. Sirius the Blue Wolf Star, because you can pull it off with a level change Spore and any other level 3 or something like that. Self-explanatory and self-explanatory. Felgrand, because it's the best rank 8 outside of Alice. Shark Knight, because it's one of the best rank 4s. Download Magician. Download Magician is in here because you have to do something with your dead Malays and dead Dolahans once you're done with them. Once Malay has used both the materials, she's outlived her utility. And I wanted to do something with that card once it was done, so I just decided, hey, let's stick a Download Magician in here so I can turn her into that once it's finished. Noble Swarm Beelzebub. I do like this card, but I do think this card has some design problems. And honestly, not really seeing its utility really outside this deck outside of a last ditch effort, because I can't really summon 2 level 4s on a whim to save my ass if I need it. So this may get replaced later with something maybe like Diamond Direwolf or whatever I choose to do at the moment. Melee, very, very, very important to this deck if you can get it off. Melee allows multiple Lone Fire abuses, it allows multiple True Behemoth abuses, and sets up Grave. It is way too important to this deck to not add in or try to fit in here. So remember that. Play at least one. I assume if you can pull off multiple copies of this card, great, go for it. Zen mains, because you need another level 3 target other than Melee, because Melee is type locked. And Dolahan, because multiple P summons do happen. It does happen, and you just need something to do with them, and it sucks when it does happen. But Dolahan is the best alternative to help you out with that. But yeah, as you can see, the deck's 42 cards. You're kind of going to need a huge deck because you can run through your deck really quickly, and because there's no more graveyard recovery, you will run out of resources very fast, and you have no way to recover them other than cards like Orc, who top deck 1 card. So you will kind of want to make this deck sort of big, maybe 1 or 2 cards, 2 or 3 cards bigger than the standard size. I've been working with 42 cards. It's been working out great for me. I've been drawing to what I needed. I've been avoiding multiple copies of Spirit Tree. I've been drawing singles of cards like Flower Knight and Leaf Flow, and getting the stuff I need faster, which is actually pretty great. And as you can see on my side, I've been testing out multiple things. Ancient Fairy Dragon to pop field spells and just add more mountains. Black Rose to wipe field. I've been trying to find a way to fit this back in, but like I said, I'm waiting for the ban list. I may actually replace Beelzebub with this card because Black Rose is easier to pull off than this card, and plus it works well. Its second effect actually works well with the deck. The guy I got the deck skeleton from on Pojo, he's playing Vulcan the Divine. I don't think it's really necessary for the deck. It's more important to have stuff you can get over, because if you summon Vulcan by himself, he has to pick himself up. He was playing Hyper Librarian because I guess his build was more synchro focused, but I didn't really see a need for it, so I just took it out and replaced it with other things. But it's still in the side while I'm in the middle of testing. Material Beast, because it's easy to pull off with Mithra and Crane. Plus this card kills spellbooks depending on how the ban list does next Friday. D'Augusto Emerald, because you need ways to put resources back in the deck since Avarice is banned. That third mountain, don't really need it though. Torrential because you can, but I don't recommend it because you once you set your field up, you don't want to lose it. Breakthrough skill just for some effect negation. I don't think you really need Blessings of Shinra at the moment because it really doesn't have any other utility for the deck. This is a horrible top deck, and it really does nothing for the deck at the moment because you have to lose a card from your hand in order to summon a Shinra. If it's not a plant and it's a spell or trap, you just lost one spell for a monster that you're going to lose at the end of the turn if you don't have anything else to do with it. And just also Fiendish Chain because it's a great card. Oh yeah, sorry about the really long vid. There was a lot I wanted to talk about in this video, and you have to. I'm asking, please take this deck with a grain of salt. This is not a final build. This is something I just wanted to talk about in my experience with the deck as I've been playing it and trying to figure out what to do with it, because I really like the deck. It's got a lot of utility. It kind of reminds me of Old Plant Synchro with the addition of tuners like Spore and Copy Plant and Mithra. Although if Glow Bulb ever came back, it would straight bust this deck wide open. I am not kidding. If Avarice came back, I would definitely take out one of these Miracle Fertilizers for an Avarice. Let me know what you guys think of this deck profile. I'd love to hear some of your experiences with the Shinra archetype, because I've heard a lot of negative info on it, but I've heard a lot of positive as well, and I'd just like to hear different perspectives on what people think about the archetype. And if you made it through the video, thank you all for watching. Stay black, and I will see you next time.